So hi everybody, I'm down here in my studio and I've got a couple of things behind me. I just thought I'd talk a little bit about what I've been doing this week, trying to get back into the swing of things, which is what I'm trying to do. And I have a smaller painting here that I started for my current workshop for Winslow Arts Center with non-objective intuitive painting. And this was part of my unfinished demonstration for Winslow Arts Center. So I'm going to finish that up this weekend and get that finished. Now, how I started that was I took a painting that I did on paper and I cut it up and I looked for a small portion, and here it is. Here's the small portion that I used, and I did a little bit of editing. I added a little more paint and some mark making, and as a way to find a way to start a painting. And so then I worked on this one on stretch canvas and I started it with some black fluid acrylic ink. And then I added some mark making where I used some, I'll show you, some art graph markers or some art graph Taylor shape. I used this to make some red marks and some black marks over this black fluid wash. And then I chose a limited range of colors, Viridian, which is a favorite color of mine. I really like Viridian, some yellow ochre, and some gray, and some brown, and some Titan buff. Wanted to keep those colors really limited. So, and mainly to have a Viridian painting with some other colors. And I really want to keep some high contrast. I like the black that is in there. So I'm going to work on finishing that. And the thing that I'm trying to think about so much with pastel and with my painting, and this is another painting that I started that has a lot of reds and orange and pink and green, and I'm really basing this one on a recent pastel painting that I did. A soft pastel on sanded paper, and I really love the colors. And so I just got out a variety of brushes and thought, well, I'm going to use the same colors that I use for my pastel, but I'm going to use similar colors in paint. And I'm going to use a variety of brushes so I can get some different mark making. And so that is what I am after here. And I pulled some brushes out. Let me get those, because one of the things that I am thinking about when I paint is, this is a brush, I think it's a filbert, or no, it's a flat. So I have a lot of different kinds of brushes because I want to leave a lot of different kinds of marks. And with both pastel and acrylic, one of the things I think about is I want some wide marks. Here is a nice brush that I really like. So I want some wide marks, some big broad marks. I like to put marks down with a silicone color shaper. So I put some paint down, and when the paint is still wet, then I drag this through it so I can see the color underneath, and that creates some different marks. I want some sharp marks, which I would use this flat brush to get some really sharp kind of angular marks. And then I have a round brush where I can use to get some kind of organic flowy marks. And I like to move that brush. I don't want to paint like this. I'm really trying to stand back, trying to move this brush in different ways. I walk back to the other side of the room and look, and I walk up and I create some, really fast marks and stand back. So there's a lot of action, a lot of movement in what I do when I'm painting. And the same with pastel is I want some different kinds of marks. So most of my pastels, here's a pastel, they all have the labels off because I want to use the side of the pastel to get some really broad marks, just like if I was using a big brush. The side of the pastel gives me that broad stroke of color, and then the tip gives me those, maybe those organic lines that I would like to have, or some sharp, fast lines. So the thing about mark making is you have to practice on cheap paper like newsprint if it's pastel, practice mark making, moving your hand and your arm in different directions, sometimes slow, long, sometimes fast, sharp, you know, just a lot of different movements. It's not the same movement all the time. And the same with a brush. You want to move that arm, you want to stand back, you want to just really, instead of just your wrist, you sometimes get your whole body into the action of painting. So that's what creates more energy and more movement. And so really mark making has been the theme for me this week and will continue to be the theme. And I did this really fast because I just felt the need to paint. And so I didn't think about what I was doing. I only thought about the colors that I had used in my pastel to get me started. And I've enjoyed this. It's on natural canvas with some clear gesso, and I've got even a larger one, so I'm going to start a larger one this weekend. So anyway, I just thought I would shoot a live video and tell you what I've been up to.